South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff has confirmed that North Korea fired another round of projectiles earlier this morning, the 10th of its kind this year.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff announced early this morning that North Korea fired 2 short-range projectiles earlier today toward the East Sea from an inland site in Pyeongnam-do province. The first one was fired at around 6:53 a.m., followed by another one about 20 minutes later. Now, the type of projectile is still being identified, but they flew roughly 330 kilometers, and the South Korean military says it's analyzing the missiles together with the U.S. Now, the JCS has said the South Korean military is monitoring the situation in case there are more launches while maintaining a readiness posture. It also criticized the North for raising tensions on the peninsula, while again urging the North to cease such acts.
The ayes to the right, 293. The noes to the left, 46.
The majority does not satisfy the requirements of the Fixed Term Parliaments Act for the purpose of engendering the election that some seek.
It had been expected, but that doesn't lessen the damage this vote is doing to Boris Johnson's government.
I earlier urged the House to trust the people, but once again the opposition think they know better. They want the British Prime Minister to go to a vital negotiation without the power to walk away.
A rowdy Parliament hours away from being prorogued, a suspension that will last 5 weeks. The Leader of the Opposition hitting back.
I think we've had quite enough of the playground politics to a Conservative Party this evening. The one thing the Prime Minister didn't say was that he was going to obey the law of this country.
These pictures may demonstrate one of the biggest obstacles to the new Afghan peace plan. Filmed under a week ago when the Taliban took over the main village in the district of Baghi-Matal, close to the Pakistan border, these fighters are confident, in high spirits. It highlights the problem facing the Afghan government and their Western allies now that a mass tribal gathering or peace jirga has authorized possible negotiations. The reality is that in many parts of Afghanistan, as here in the province of Nuristan, the Taliban don't want to talk because they think they're winning. 2 Al Jazeera producers were in this district for 5 days, a period in which control of the main village changed 3 times. It's back in government hands, but much of the countryside is under the control of the Taliban, or as they call themselves, the Islamic Emirate. They've taken government vehicles and NATO equipment.
Step around the corner of this suburban London street and the windows on the building and the plaque on the door will reveal that this is in fact a mosque. And it's a mosque that's in a bit of trouble right now for hiring a dangerous extremist to teach children and then trying to cover it up. 26-year-old Umar Haq taught Islamic studies at the mosque, despite having no qualifications and being employed as an administrator. Umar Haq was jailed for life. During the trial, the court heard details of how he'd shown extremist materials to children that had attended the after-school club here, and how he tried to mould them into an army of kids.
After the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice, regulators in Europe, this time 50 attorneys general united to probe Google's business practices.
When 50 attorney generals come together, 50 attorney generals send a strong message to Google. I am going to tell you it's a big deal.
The questions aren't new. Has Alphabet, Google's parent company, stifled competition in online advertising? Is Google violating users' privacy? Is it giving users the most relevant search results or data that can generate more money?
As a new mom, when my daughter is sick and I search online for advice or doctors, I want the best advice from the best doctors, not the doctor and not the clinic who can spend the most on advertising.
Meanwhile, this morning, immigration outrage as a new report claims nearly 500 illegal immigrants with ICE detainers on them were released in sanctuary counties, that should say, across North Carolina in the last 10 months. Reportedly among them, people who were wanted for kidnapping, assault, arson, and murder.
How could that be bad? Here to weigh in, Fox News senior judicial analyst, host of Liberty File on Fox Station, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, the friction between ICE and certain sanctuary cities, states, counties is getting to an intolerable level.
I'm surprised this is happening in North Carolina, and this is serious. So this is not the case of people being released who are susceptible to deportation and the sheriffs who are releasing them because they finished serving their term for which the sheriff was confining them, failing to tell ICE. This is people who are charged with other crimes in North Carolina for which the sheriffs are not rearresting them and are releasing them.
We begin with some good news of a Korean cargo ship that capsized in waters off the U.S. state of Georgia. The final 4 South Korean crew members who had been trapped inside the ship's engine room were safely rescued and are in good condition.
Well, investigation is underway to find out what exactly caused the giant ship to tilt over. President Moon has sent a letter to President Trump to express gratitude.
At around 6 p.m. on Monday, local time, the U.S. Coast Guard tweeted that all 24 crew members aboard the Golden Ray have been rescued and are in stable conditions. Following the news that all crew members were rescued and safe, President Moon Jae-in sent a letter to U.S. President Donald Trump and thanked the timely rescue efforts by the U.S. Coast Guard. He also sent a separate letter to the commander of the U.S. Coast Guard and thanked the courage they showed during the rescue operations. Meanwhile, authorities are yet to find the cause of the accident.
Forget the growing humanitarian crisis in the Bahamas tonight, the desperation and the new images coming in, and what President Trump has said about people in the Bahamas who want to get to the U.S. No end to the devastation from Hurricane Dorian, people who have lost everything, desperate to get to safety.
Tonight in the Bahamas, first responders with the grim task of recovering the dead. As aid arrives, survivors telling us they want to see promises kept. Many rushing to leave the Abaco Islands.
And this morning here in Marsh Harbor, they are still loading cars and people onto this ferry that's headed to Nassau. It's part of the massive effort to evacuate people from this island left devastated by Hurricane Dorian.
This after more than 100 evacuees were kicked off a different ferry in Freeport, captured here by WSVN.
When you come into the USA, you will have trouble.
Passengers without a visa told to disembark.
South Korea was set to launch a prototype orbiter to the moon in December 2020, but the Ministry of Science said today that it'll postpone the launch by about a year and a half to July 2022. The delay, it said, is because the engineers have found that the orbiter in its current design would end up weighing about 130 kilograms more than they planned. The committee in charge has therefore decided to adjust the spacecraft's orbit to save fuel. So when the spacecraft gets to the moon, instead of a 1-year circular orbit, it'll do 9 months in an ellipse and 3 months in a circle. A longer design period means an extra cost of about $13 million. This is the second time the Moon administration has delayed the launch.